The Galactic Empire was used to awe. Its fleet stretched like a wall of steel across the stars. Its soldiers had marched across 1,000 conquered worlds. Every new species the Empire encountered had reacted in one of two ways, with fear or with defiance. Both were predictable. Both were manageable. So when Imperial envoys arrived on Earth, they expected the same. Instead, they found calm. The humans did not bow, nor scream, nor posture. They welcomed the delegation with quiet courtesy. The leaders of Earth sat at long tables, listening carefully, their eyes steady, their words measured. They offered hospitality, food, and handshakes. No trembling, no bluster, only stillness. And in that stillness, the Empire felt something unfamiliar. Uncertainty. The delegation reported back uneasily. Other species quake before us. These humans do not. They act as though they have seen predators before and survived. The Council laughed. Humanity was young, their technology primitive, their fleets insignificant. A species of Deathworlders, yes, but Deathworlders always broke once they realized how small they were in the face of the Empire. But the reports continued. Soldiers stationed on Earth returned with stories that disturbed even the most hardened. "Generals! They train until exhaustion," one officer whispered. "And then they keep going, laughing through the pain. They live in conditions that would kill most species," another said. "Radiation, toxins, storms. They adapt. They smile while they bleed." The Empire dismissed these as exaggerations. And yet, the unease spread. The first true test came when the Empire demanded more than Earth was willing to give. Total surrender. The stripping of their fleets, their defenses, their sovereignty. Other species had bowed instantly under such terms. The humans did not. They did not rage. They did not cry. They simply sat across the negotiating table, silent and still. The lead human leaned forward, hands folded, eyes calm, and spoke in a tone so steady it chilled the blood of those present. "We cannot accept that. No threats, no pleas, just quiet refusal." The Empire responded the way it always did, with force. Fleets were dispatched, armies mobilized, the machinery of conquest grinding into motion. And then, for the first time in centuries, the Empire hesitated, because when their fleets approached the edge of Sol, something stepped out of the void. It was not a ragtag defense force. It was not a desperate militia. It was a fleet, a human fleet, ships black as night, hulls lined with weapons unfamiliar to the Empire, engines burning with strange, efficient fire. They had been hidden, waiting in silence, like a predator crouched in the grass. The Imperial Admiral stared at the tactical readouts in disbelief. Humanity should not have been capable of this. Not yet, not for centuries, and yet here they were, calm, ready, watching. The humans opened a channel. The voice that came through was the same steady tone the Empire had heard before, but this time, it carried the weight of something more, something primal. "You've mistaken our silence for submission. That was your last mistake. The battle that followed was not what the Empire expected. The humans did not fight with reckless fury, as Deathworlders usually did. They fought with precision, with patience. Every strike was deliberate, every move calculated. They absorbed losses without flinching, adapted mid-battle, and turned the Empire's overwhelming numbers into a disadvantage. The stillness that had unsettled the Empire in meetings now revealed itself for what it truly was, the stillness of predators waiting to strike. The Empire had always believed in overwhelming power. But power meant nothing when your enemy did not fear it. Human ships slipped through gaps. The Empire didn't even realize it had left open. Human marines struck like shadows, silent and efficient, breaking through hardened defenses without wasted motion. They did not roar in victory. They did not gloat. They simply moved to the next target, calm and methodical. The Imperial Admiral, watching his fleets crumble, finally understood. "This is not the rage of warriors," he whispered. "This is the patience of hunters." Word of the defeat spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Worlds long held under Imperial rule heard the stories, how humanity had stood unflinching, how they had bided their time, how they had struck with terrifying calm. And for the first time in centuries, the Empire's subjects began to hope. The Empire tried to suppress the whispers, but they could not silence what had been unleashed. The humans had revealed themselves, and the galaxy now knew the truth. The Empire called for negotiations again. This time, humanity came not as supplicants, but as equals. A human representative stood before the Imperial Council, calm as ever, hands clasped behind his back. His words were measured, his tone steady, but every member of the council felt the weight behind them. "You rule through fear," he said quietly. "We rule through patience. Fear fades, patience endures. Which do you think will last?" The council sat in silence. None dared answer. From that day on, the galaxy looked at humanity differently, not as conquerors who screamed their victories, not as rebels who fought and died in glorious futility, but as predators, silent, patient, inevitable. The stillness that had once been mistaken for weakness was now understood for what it was: restraint. Humanity did not need to shout. They did not need to boast. They only needed to wait. And when the moment came, they struck with precision no empire could withstand. The galaxy whispered a new truth. The humans are not loud. They do not roar. They do not posture. They simply watch. And when they move, it is already too late to stop them. The Galactic Empire, which had once believed itself unshakable, now trembled before the calm of a species that had shown its true nature at last, the stillness of predators. The Galactic Empire had seen countless first contacts. Some species resisted, and their fleets burned. Some begged for mercy, and they were enslaved. Others joined willingly, dazzled by the sheer scale of the Empire's power. But in every case, the Empire's arrival was greeted with fear, awe, or anger. Always, there was noise. Then came humanity. The first human ship stumbled into Imperial patrol space, battered and scarred from some long voyage. The patrol expected terror from the crew, desperate bargaining, or frantic explanations. Instead, the humans merely greeted them calmly, voices steady, expressions unreadable. Interesting, the patrol captain noted in his report. They were not afraid. When the Empire's delegation arrived on Earth, the same calm pervaded. Cities did not panic. Leaders did not bow nor boast. Instead, the humans listened. They sat in long, quiet meetings while Imperial governors explained the terms of integration. They asked questions, sharp, precise questions, but never raised their voices. They studied maps, trade agreements, and fleet movements with eyes that seemed too steady, too calculating. This was unsettling. For the Empire, noise was predictable. Pleas, threats, or resistance could all be handled. But silence was dangerous. Silence meant thought. At first, the High Council dismissed the concern. Humans were a minor species, technologically young, with no great fleets or armies. Their calm must be ignorance, or perhaps arrogance, but unease spread among those who dealt with them directly. Admirals found human officers on loan to be disturbingly competent, never rattled, never flustered, even under simulated fire. Governors reported that human advisors were reshaping policies quietly, subtly, always in ways that brought stability, but also shifted influence. One governor whispered to another after a meeting, "Do you notice how they never argue? They only agree?" And then later you find you are following their plan instead of your own? The Empire's historians began digging. What they found unsettled them further. Humanity's past was drenched in conflict. Wars that consumed continents, ideologies that clashed for centuries, weapons that had once been capable of burning their own world to ash. And yet, despite it all, humans had survived, adapted, and rebuilt. They were not strangers to chaos. They were forged in it, which made their calm in the face of the Empire even more chilling. For if a people so familiar with destruction could remain this patient, this quiet, then what were they waiting for? Years passed. Humans became part of the Empire, but never loudly. They were not the conquerors, nor the rebels, nor the supplicants. They were simply present. They worked the docks, served as engineers, joined the fleets. They smiled politely at commands and carried them out with unnerving precision. And yet, things began to change. Supply lines grew more efficient where humans worked. Fleets, with human advisors, avoided costly mistakes. Trade disputes where humans negotiated always ended in their favor. One admiral, uneasy after a war game, muttered to his aide, "They never flinch, never boast, never show fear. It's like fighting a shadow. You never know when it will strike, only that it's already in position." Whispers began to spread through the ranks of the Empire. The humans smile too easily. They agree too quickly. They are planning something. Some dismissed it as paranoia. Others grew convinced. A few even feared to speak with humans directly, unsettled by those steady eyes and quiet nods. The calm was no longer mistaken for weakness. It was seen for what it truly was: patience. And then the storm came. It began in the outer colonies, with small, coordinated revolts. Fleets dispatched to crush the rebels arrived too late. Supply lines had been accidentally misrouted. Communications were delayed. And always, at the heart of the chaos, were humans, guiding the movements, whispering in the ears of those ready to defy the Empire. The Council was stunned. How had so many uprisings occurred at once, across light years of space? How had they, spread so perfectly, so quietly? The answer was obvious, once seen. The humans had been preparing for years, patiently, calmly, waiting for the right moment. When the Empire attempted to muster its great fleets, they found themselves stranded. Fuel depots were empty. Dockyards reported clerical errors. Human workers, once trusted to run the logistics, had simply vanished, taking entire networks with them. Governors who had relied on human advisors now found their own guards turning against them. Entire worlds slipped free from imperial control, without a battle, because the humans had already laid the groundwork. It was not war. It was inevitability. The council convened in panic. "We must crush them!" roared one general. "With what fleets?" another demanded. "With what supplies?" "They are not soldiers. They are parasites," a governor spat. "No," an old admiral said quietly. "They are not parasites. Parasites feed until their host dies. The humans have become the host. We are the parasite now." The chamber fell silent. They all knew it was true. At last, the humans revealed themselves. Not with fire, not with destruction, but with calm. A single representative standing before the council spoke in the same even tone that had unsettled them from the very beginning. "You thought we were silent because we were weak, but silence is not weakness, it is patience. We did not fight you because we did not need to. You fought yourselves, and we showed you how to lose. No threats, no boasts, just calm words." And somehow, that was more terrifying than a fleet hanging above. The capital. From that day forward, the galaxy understood a terrible truth. The loudest conquerors could be resisted. The fiercest empires could be fought. But those who waited who smiled quietly while building their power. Those were the ones who could never be stopped. Humanity had not brought war. Humanity had brought inevitability, and the calm before the storm had ended. The Galactic Empire had stood unchallenged for millennia. Its fleets were so vast that they could blot out the suns of conquered worlds. Its armies, numbering in the trillions, had broken every rebellion, crushed every upstart species, and forced civilizations across the stars into compliance. The formula was always the same: intimidation, shock, and submission. Those who resisted were ground to dust. Those who bent the knee were allowed to serve. The galaxy had long since accepted this reality. Everyone feared the Empire, everyone except the newcomers. When humanity was discovered, it was almost by accident. An exploratory fleet stumbled across a small, outlying human colony on the fringe of the Orion Arm. Reports filtered back to the capital of this strange new species, one that had only recently begun to push beyond their home system. Primitive, backward, and naive, so the Empire assumed. The humans, however, were different. When the Empire's emissaries arrived, the humans did not panic. They did not grovel, nor did they raise fleets in futile defiance. Instead, they greeted the emissaries with calm nods, courteous words, and patient silence. Their leaders listened carefully, asked questions politely, and signed agreements with steady hands. The Empire mistook this for weakness. At first, humans were given low positions, minor trade partners, auxiliary workers, disposable colonial administrators. The Empire expected them to struggle, to be overwhelmed, to collapse under the pressure of integration. But instead, humanity adapted. Within a few years, human traders were running complex supply routes more efficiently than the Empire's own. Logistics officers. Human engineers didn't just repair ships, they improved them, sometimes with small, quiet modifications that doubled efficiency. Human diplomats moved carefully through imperial courts, never loud, never boastful, yet always, leaving with more influence than they seemed to enter with. The calmness unsettled the Empire's analysts. Most species fought loudly to assert themselves. They either resisted violently or begged desperately for favor. Humans did neither. They simply worked, learned, and observed. Always with that unnerving steadiness. Dangerous, one strategist muttered in private, though he could not explain why. They are too calm, too patient. Decades passed. Humanity's role in the Empire grew, almost unnoticed. A human clerk here, a human advisor there. They weren't warriors, not openly. They weren't rebels, not obviously. Yet one by one, key sectors of the Empire began to depend on them. It was humans who coordinated the flow of resources across the sprawling trade lanes. Humans who kept the imperial treasury balanced when other races' accountants stumbled. Humans who smoothed over political disputes that might have sparked civil wars. The Empire didn't see the danger until it was far too late. By the time the High Council looked closely, humanity was everywhere. They ran the supply chains that fed imperial armies. They managed the communications relays that connected the stars. They had become trusted advisors to admirals, governors, and even members of the royal court. The realization came with a chill. If humanity chose to stop, the Empire itself would grind to a halt. And then, the mask slipped. It happened subtly at first. A single shipment delayed here. A critical supply run accidentally rerouted there. Entire fleets were stranded in deep space because the humans who managed the supply manifests had shifted priorities. Without raising suspicion, governors who had long relied on human advisors suddenly found their policies undermined, their authority slipping. Trade guilds loyal to humanity began to outmaneuver those who had served the Empire for centuries. The Empire tried to clamp down, but every attempt failed. Arrest one human and 3 more quietly took their place, shut down a supply chain, and another opened instantly under human control. The Empire's strength, the sheer scale of its vast networks, was now its greatest weakness, for humans were the ones who held those networks together. The terrifying truth dawned on the Imperial Council. Humanity had conquered them without firing a single shot. One council member finally voiced the fear all had begun to whisper. They do not need war. They do not need fleets. They rule already, through silence, through patience, through calm. The Empire had always understood war. It knew how to face enemies that shouted, charged, and defied. But humanity's approach was something far worse. Their calm was not submission. It was infiltration. It was control, hidden beneath courtesy and politeness. A fleet could be broken. A rebellion could be crushed. But how did you fight an enemy that smiled, bowed, and made itself indispensable? The final confirmation came at the coronation of a new emperor. The court was packed with nobles, generals, and alien dignitaries, and standing quietly at the emperor's side, dressed in simple dark robes, was a human, introduced only as an advisor. When the emperor raised his hand to silence the chamber, it was the human who leaned in and whispered the words that shaped the Empire's new policies. Everyone saw it. Everyone knew. And yet no one dared move against it. The Empire, the greatest power the galaxy had ever known, had been claimed, not through fleets or fire, but through the terrifying calm of a species that never needed open conflict to win. The galaxy whispered a new truth after that day. The humans are not conquerors in the way we understand. They do not fight for power. They become power. They do not invade. They inhabit. And when the time is right, they do not need to strike. They simply reveal that they were already in control. The most dangerous thing about humanity was not their weapons, nor their armies, nor even their endurance. It was their calm. And for the first time in centuries, the Galactic Empire trembled.